Something else that I think is super important in this is that because if you're in that waiting time, like you've got the word and you're waiting and nothing's really happening, is on top of possibly that person is not ready. They're not where God needs them to be to bring them to you. Also, in my case, I can look back and see where God had hid me. So, in that time where it seemed so awkward, I pulled so far away, I wouldn't even look at the back of his head. I just was like, mainly out of butt hurtness, and just being like, like before God actually said, like, you're getting married, God was hiding me. He was really hiding me. I went through really long seasons of isolation and of hiding. And in that moment, he was hiding me in the place we were in, because had anybody known that that was my husband, we would have been dealing with so much more warfare than what we did, because I was not the only one that liked him, period. I just wasn't. And had God not hidden me and brought me, like made me just really kind of be non existent until the exact time, I honestly don't know what would have happened, and I don't think it would have been good. I think there would have been so much confusion, so much chaos, so many things that would have played into that. And so also keep that in mind if you're in this journey of God may be hiding you until the 11th hour because he needs to preserve you. He needs to preserve that relationship, because if anybody actually sees that it's you, all hell really will break loose. So that is something else to really be mindful of that I didn't understand at the time, but now sitting here and I'm recounting the story and I'm looking back and I'm like, "Oh no, I was hidden for a purpose," because even though it was painful and I didn't understand it at the time, now I can impart that wisdom to you, and maybe you can have a better understanding of why you're like, why do I feel invisible to this person? Well, it's because you need to be until the time's right, because you may not be the only person that likes that person. You may not be the only person that thinks that they may end up with that person. And those other people may be around. And if they see that it's you, or they get any wind that it's you, because I feel like I was hidden from everybody in that season. Everybody that was around, it was just like I just kind of didn't exist. And thank God for that, because when God brought me out and when he put me on the scene, he put me on the scene in a big way. It went from 0 to 60 like that. And so just something to put in your back pocket if you're feeling discouraged. I mean, there's a lot of things we can read into these situations where we can kind of start to make sense of it, of why it looks the way that it does, why it's such a long kind of grueling process. And even somebody that is subscribed to our channel, that we know personally, actually came up to me the other night and was like, "Hey, I saw your video." And she's like, "It ministered to me because I'm going through the same thing. I really feel like I found my kingdom spouse." And as soon as I feel like I got that revelation, she goes, "It's like everything fell apart. It was like we were on the same page and then it just fell apart." And the thing is I can't tell somebody what's going on in their situation. I can't tell somebody, that is or that isn't. But I can say that that sounds awfully familiar. I feel like the fact that there is so much warfare is probably a really good sign. So if you're watching this, be encouraged, because that is what happens. The enemy does not want people that are godly people to come together to do godly things, to raise godly children, and to be, to go out and do things for the Lord. What a threat. It's different than just a regular relationship. It is a heavenly ordained relationship. You are going to be used of the Lord in so many ways we can't even imagine yet. But, obviously that's a threat. So keep that in mind. And I'm trying to think of anything else that would really kind of help somebody in this. Well, I guess, whenever it was time, it was time. From the moment, whenever like we were invited to the barbecue, and if you need to know about the barbecue, go back. When we were invited to the barbecue, you know, and I knew it was time. I knew this is it. This is happening. I thought we were going to be together by the end of the day. It didn't really work out like that, but you know, it was very soon after that. He still didn't even know that day. He didn't know until a couple days later. And then he started putting things together that God had told him and realized that God had said by spring of 2021, like she'll be here. And it was literally the first day of spring that we had that barbecue on the Hebrew calendar. So, I mean, when he started putting these things together, because at that point he didn't want to be deceived either, because he had already gone through like kind of his wilderness in that, dated a couple people that were not it, but they were trying to pretend like they were it. I mean, they were getting direct like information from the enemy to tell him, to make him believe, no, this is it because I had this dream or I got this word. And like these people weren't even Christians. It's just, it was crazy how easily he could have really believed that and went with what seemed okay. And he would have went with the okay thing and not the God thing. And I'm so proud of him. And I'm so happy that he was able to, and I know God was working on our behalf, because here I am praying and interceding and standing and knowing and declaring and decreeing. And it's like, God's not going to let you down. God's not going to punish me because he's kind of having to figure things out. And so people have asked that, you know, like, should I be praying? Should I be doing this? Absolutely. Pray without ceasing. Always be praying, you know, always be praying for people. But when you have something like this, you have got to stand in the gap for your kingdom spouse. You have to, because the enemy is going to throw so many things at him and at you both. I remember right before, the week before we got together, thank God I knew what I knew. We go out to, I go with a friend, I was with a girlfriend, and we go out to somebody's business, and they have a son who, you know, like right around my age, single, whatever, and they were trying to set me up with him. You know, had I not known like exactly who my kingdom spouse is, maybe I would have been like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is my opportunity to start dating. Maybe this is whatever. But it's like, I knew that I knew. And not only did I know, but I knew the one God had for me, that's the one I wanted. Like, it's amazing when God gives you things, but it is incredible when God gives you the desire of your heart. And I still tell my husband to this day, if I could have anybody in the entire world, I would choose you over and over again. I couldn't imagine, like, you know what I mean? And I don't even know if I said that right, but I think you know what I mean. But it's like, I would pick you out of anyone. Like, I just adore him, you know? And so it was like, I see where the enemy tried to give me the good thing, but it was like, I already knew. So I just laughed at it. I thought it was the funniest thing that all of a sudden this family is trying to bring me into the fold, you know, to be with their son. And it's like, no, you know, and I was able to laugh about it and leave and think, nice try, you know, but it's like, I wasn't even remotely, my head wasn't even turned, you know, because it was just like, that is hysterical, because that would have been the good thing, not the God thing. But I knew that was like just a trap, you know, and so I thought it was funny and, you know, walked away. But yeah, everybody has to be brought to that place where they're ready. And so keep that in mind. If you're feeling discouraged, but you feel like you really heard from the Lord, timing is everything. And that person, they're going through their own journey, and they may not know what God told you. God may not have told them the same thing. Just like God told my husband when, but he didn't tell him who. And actually in a dream, he showed him that I had blonde hair. He didn't see my face. It was just from behind, and I had blonde hair. So he's looking for a blonde. I mean, it's crazy. And everywhere he was going, he was looking for blonde girls. Like, it's hilarious how God works. And then at the very end, after the barbecue, because now he's wondering, now he's like, okay. And he told the Lord, he said, Lord, she checks all my boxes. He's like, there is absolutely zero reason why I wouldn't be with her. But if it's not her that you have for me, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go down that road. And so he's like, I need to know. And then God gave his mom a dream that I had dark hair, and and then they looked up what the blonde hair meant. It meant a crown of righteousness. And so Lord's got my back. And so it ended up being where it was like, okay. And then they figured out the calendar and all of those things. And it was like, all right, this is her. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. It's such an amazing journey. I absolutely adore our story. We need to write a book about it because there's so much in the Kingdom Spouse stuff and just the way God orchestrates your relationship. And it takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of, you've got to be able to have a thick skin at times. Because then even after that, we had a lot of things because we ended up being together for 3 months. We were engaged for 1 and then we got married the next. And so, and then as soon as it came out that like we were together, then all hell broke loose on a lot of different fronts. But we were excited. We knew we were in the right place, but it was like, and God made a way through all of that, but you could definitely tell like the enemy was not happy about it. And so we had a lot of things we had to overcome. We had a long season of some really hard stuff, but, it was beautiful though. And now here we are in a completely different season. And I think something else to remember is, one thing I'm always kind of in awe of God about is that giants that you face in one season will not be your giants in the next. And I see so many giants that have been slain. And then we come in, as you move forward and you look back to the year before and you're like, wow, the things we were dealing with then, we are not dealing with now. Like, praise you, God. And so, God's got your back. And that was one of the things I always remembered when I was walking through that was, Lord, this is your relationship and I trust you. So even when things were going crazy, even when people were not being nice, even when we were dealing with challenges from past seasons, from things that had happened or relationships we had been in, it was always a thing where it's like, I would just turn it back on the Lord and say, this is yours. This is where you want me. You chose me for this. So I believe that I can do it. I believe that we can get through this. I know you'll lead us out. Because once you know that, then you can always tell the Lord, this is your thing. And I believe you. And I know you're gonna make a way in this. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. I hope that it blesses you. And let me know in the comments if there's something else you want me to talk about regarding this subject. And I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.